All
That was
right,
the
there
one.
we
Yes.
go. That's the one I wanted.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Yes.
did you come across the Dr. Umar interview that he recently did on YouTube? I can't think of the name of the show.
See a
But
number of his video snippets. I didn't watch the entire interview, but the
okay.
one that I remember off the top as we were speaking about him regarded the church and
Oh,
its
that's the one you sent me, right?
reason for
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, yeah, it's that same interview. Yeah.
the catalyst that the church is in keeping women single and the reason that it's used in that way. Yes.
I came across a video last night that talked about the same thing. They had like a summit last year in Washington, and that was one of the questions: is the church oppressing women?
Hmm.
And they had some good point of views. Um, it's just you just know me in church, so I have to listen to those things with an open mind and whatnot. But from their point of view in their beliefs, they had very great points. But guys, Dr. Umar Johnson explained how the 70s began the age of the single black mother. So I went and did some research, and I came across the report from I can't never say this man name right. Toy Monahan. Monahan wrote in 1965 on the supposed upcoming destruction of the black family. The out of wedlock birth rate was 25% among black people. In 1991, 68% of black children were born outside of marriage, where marriage is defined with a government issue, where marriage is defined with the government issue license. And I would, for me, um, coming into part two, and I had always had the idea of what we're going to talk about now. Coming into part two, part one was just kind of like just introducing the
Right. That. Yes.
yeah, because I want to believe at some point you yourself, my wife, my daughters, um, can be realized as not just in a human being, but your importance in life in general. Because, and you spoke on this several times on other shows, and how our white counterparts, they were back in the day sent to school to college, on purpose to, you know, not for a degree,
Correct.
to find an actual partner in a sense. And if they just so happen to get a degree, oh, cool. Never had a chance to use it though. Majority of them, and nowadays that's different. Um, Men, y'all can come at me later for this, but I would say that just my honest opinion, I do feel when it comes to school, women have us beat, and especially in the category of black women. Um, Black men are just so used to the narrative of work, 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 provide, provide, provide. And yes, some are getting the degrees to be, the doctors now more than anything, the lawyers, the big white collar type jobs, true enough. But I don't we've gotten so wrapped up in this provide and protect that I don't think we understand that our disconnection from family
Hmm.
has caused our community to continue to go down spiral like real hard.
Hmm.
Um, these
Right.
battles between, you know, male and female and whatnot. Who's better? Who can do it better? Double standard type stuff. It's just crazy to this point. Um, so I looked into trying to figure out why are the lies there. And so before I play the first video, what is your thought on the lies for um, black single women and why is it like so detrimental um, that especially when it comes to the kids is uh, the myth is if she's black and she's single the kids are not in a great place.
Okay. Ooh, that's a lot to unpack. Very, very quickly before you show the first video, my overarching answer to the question of why the lies on black single mothers. That is a penetrative focus on black single mothers because the lies are about the black community in general. So there are going to be some lies about the black community in general that have their worst manifestation with the particular focus on her. And the reason for that is control.
Okay.
You can't really get out from under the racist caste system that society is built on when you deal with issues like this. So when the Atlantic slave trade was actually active and black people, specifically African people, were considered human beings, in
Hmm.
order to stop that, they had to be dehumanized
Hmm.
as an entire people. So that dehumanization covers all currently today black people, modern day black people as we know. But once you say something about someone that makes them less than human, you justify anything bad that you do to them. So if the black woman is in her situation, it's because she is hypersexual. She did all these bad things and she got into this position by herself because she has low intellect and all of these types of things. And then you have to create circumstances that perpetuate that belief for the following generations. So for today, as we speak, what we're talking about isn't just in the current generation of what's happening. It stems back to many different societal factors that have been happening for generations. And that's one of the reasons that the lies are so detrimental because they keep going and they're not true. So it's difficult to shift the paradigm if the same lies continue to be told and the consequence of that lie is borne by the person about whom the lie sits.
Okay. I can see that. Um, had to step away just for a split second. Our guest, the link didn't work, and so I had to send that back to him. But I can definitely see that. Lisa says, I can say that as a single woman was told to find a God fearing man in the church.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
JJ's son also said she pretty much agreed. The men aren't there though. Mm,
Exactly. Exactly. Okay.
were they really there? Is a better discussion.
part of a Part of an expanded notion that these two comments reflect on is the idea, are the church practices keeping women single? That's one of the things that we were talking about with the earlier interview. And
Hmm.
yes, this is part of that reason because women in church outnumber men in general. In most churches that you go to, that's going to be the scenario that you find. Most of the men that are in church are either married already or too young to really, be to really consider marriage because they're not mature enough to handle that weight. But
Right.
to the point that Lisa was making, once some once a woman believes that her Prince Charming husband is going to be found in church, She gets to church and there are no dateable men. Single does not equal dateable. That's a different discussion, but there are no dateable men. Then she is told, not only are you supposed to just find your husband in church, but you can't go to any other churches. You can't even visit any other places or do any other things, because if this is your church home, this is where your time should be, this is where your money should be, this is where your offering should be, this is where your mind, heart, soul, conviction, and blood spilt should be. So they're keeping her in this environment in which there are no potential partners. And as a practice,
Uh-huh.
that is just one tangible way that the church is, in effect, keeping women single.
Okay. All right. I hope you guys understood that, because also Dr. Umar was making some great valid points, and that other video that I saw earlier this morning was kind of speaking on that too, about the being single and whatnot in a church and looking for a man. Lisa also said, yes, I should wait until he comes along and pray to find a good man. Yes, agree.
And
Um,
that,
JJ Son also said, that's true. Now, disclaimer on these videos. We got 4 videos and we got 4 questions. Miss Whitney. So we're gonna hit the first video first, and then we're gonna do the first question, right?
yes, okay.
And I'm going to go with this one.
Oh, mercy. Okay. You are scaring people. We got it. Come on. Let's take it.
With people that espouse this particular brand of bullshit. Show me the man in the house rule. Point me to the literature that indicates that that men could not be in the house. Let's read, however, directly from Daniel Patrick Moynihan's Moynihan report. Because see, the thing I'm going to bring to this, brother, because you got 1.3 million followers, so I want to ensure I may need to swing your audience over this way, church. So let's talk about it. Because I got it pulled up right here. So let's read it. And this is coming from page 9 of Daniel Patrick Moynihan's report. As you can see, I got it pulled up right here. You feel me? The breakdown of the Negro family has led to a startling increase in welfare dependency. As a direct result, actually, let me read a little bit ahead. A little bit before. As a direct result of this high rate of divorce, separation, and desertion, a very large percentage of Negro families are headed by females. While the percentage of such families among whites has been dropping since 1940, it has been rising among Negroes. The percent of non-white families headed by a female is more than double the percent for whites. Fatherless non-white families increased by 1/6 between 1950 and 1960, but held constant for white families. It has been estimated that only a minority of Negro children reach the age of 18, having lived all their lives with both of their parents. Once again, this measure of family disorganization is found to be diminishing among white families and increasing among Negro families. The majority of Negro children receive public assistance receive public assistance under the AFDC program at one point or another. At present, 14% of Negro children are receiving AFDC assistance, or the original welfare, as against 2% of white children. 8% of white children receive such assistance at some point in time, as against 56% of non-whites. According to an extrapolation based on Hugh data, let it be noted, however, that out of a total of 1.8 million non-white illegitimate children in the nation in 61, 1.3 million were not receiving aid under this program, although a substantial number have or will receive aid at some point in their lives. Again, the AFDC program, deriving from the long-established Mother's Aid programs, was originally established in 1935 to principally care for widows and orphans, although the legislation covered all children in homes deprived of parental support because one or both of their parents are absent or incapacitated. In the beginning, the number of families in which the father was absent because of desertion was less than 1/3 of the total. Today, it is 2/3, meaning over 60%. Hugh estimated that in 1960, that between 2/3 and 3/4 was a 50% increase from 1948 to 1955 in the number of absent fathers, families receiving ADC may be explained by an increase in broken homes in the population. So while you over there espousing there was no man in the house rule, guess what? There was no man in the house rule. The motherfucking has just got up and left. Stop lying to these people. You the one that's lying. I got facts, data, statistics, which were pulled directly from the United States Department of Labor and Bureau of Labor Statistics. So please, cut the bullshit.
Yeah. So it's so funny that he states, he has the receipts, facts, and all this stuff. And I went back and I did a video to him. He that wasn't to me or anything like that, but I did do a video to that response to that because it is so funny that he went through all that spiel. And this is my thing about people and facts and receipts. I get it. It's nice to have them, because our phones now, they create great receipts when it comes to what people do. And they say, I ain't do that. Well, I got the receipt. I got the receipt. You know what I'm saying? So
Indeed.
that same report, and it's so funny that I came across a video because I was doing the same research, not what he was talking about, but by the same person. And I read the same report that he was reading, and that was part of at the beginning of the show, with the 25% and the 68% type thing and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I came across that video. I'm like, well, gosh, I just read that. And I said, but I've heard that as well, because that is our first question. Is there really such a thing called man in the house rule? Because he was very adamant about black men just basically leaving and causing so much problem. And that's what I got from that. Black men just up and leave. And there's no such thing as black women being in a hood environment where they're on section 8, section 9, section 10, all the sections that's out there. That it goes off of the bodies are that in the house. I hate to say it like that, but however many people are in the house, that's what it goes off. And if it's too many people in the house that are making X amount of money, then you're not qualified for that. And so, granted, I'm not telling people to do this, but I get it to a certain degree. I understand. I'm not going to get in a relationship to where he's going to stay in the house because that's going to stop me from getting my benefits. That's the thought process with some of them, not all. So, question.
Yes.
Is there really such a thing called man in the house rule? I'm going to let you go first because I've done my little research.
Okay. Okay. Well, speaking very generally from the things that I have seen, and yes, certain aspects of research, but a very, very long time ago in a very general application. I'm extracting from that general research to discuss with you tonight here. And regarding the man in the house rule, as far as I could tell, it wasn't just about the number of qualified, able-bodied people. It was whether or not there was a man in the house, point blank. And the reason for that, as presented, was if he is in the house, then that house was thereby ineligible to receive certain assistance. So him leaving the house was the only way for the women to receive whatever benefit that it was. And that spoke to the mindset that you were speaking of again, that a woman would say, I'm single, I have my kids, and I'm not going to have my boyfriend move in because then I would stop getting my benefits. The issue with that scenario is when this rule was first instituted, as far as I understand, there was no boyfriend in the situation. We were talking about married people. If the married father was not in the house, then the woman was eligible for whatever benefits were available. But if he came back, then the benefits stopped. Now, here's where it takes the twist on the thing that I was talking to you about earlier. If he came back and the benefits stopped, what happens if he was in jail and was convicted wrongly, served 2 or 3 years for whatever the situation was, and then got out. As a
Hmm.
felon, he wouldn't be able to get certain types of work. So even if he is back, does he have the financial ability to replace those benefits? And in many situations, the answer was no, he didn't. So it became practical for the family to separate. If those benefits were the catalyst, if the mother was saying, it makes sense for us to be apart because if you're in the house, then I won't get the benefits. So we
Right.
learned something about the welfare system in general as it was built. It wasn't built to help, it was built to make people dependent. And this is
Mm.
one of the manifestations of that very thing. So, yes, there was a man in the house rule. And that rule was simply if he is there, typically it would disqualify a home from benefits.
Wait, hold on. Say that again. If what now?
If he was in the house, it would
Hmm.
disqualify the house for benefits.
I don't think they heard you in the back. Say it just one more time for the record. It was what number?
If the man was
Mm-hmm.
in the house, his presence would disqualify that house from government assistance.
Mm. Mm. Oh, I wish that man was on. I need to go find him because listen, ah, like I said, I did my research too, and the National Low Income Housing Correlation,
Mhm.
the new man in the house rules, how the regulation of housing vouchers turns personal bonds into eviction liabilities.
That's right.
Now, if
Mhm.
this is not a such thing as he say that he has his receipts because he looked at that one report, um, folks, and I have to catch myself sometimes. I try not to state my opinion unless I looked at something and or researched something and I came across a couple of things. And again, it's just my opinion, it's how I feel. And but I'm a person that and you've said something yourself to me off of some of my posts that has made me go back and say, "Oh, you know what? You're right." And I'll go back and change it. But just listening to his tone and his attitude is like he just knew that right now the way black women are set up and the reason why they're single is because the man is just outright leaving. And I just think that's a bunch of bull crap.
True.
And
Absolutely. Right. Yes,
I
I
think
agree.
I slobbed a little bit when I found that information that oh wow, and I did a video and everything, but he never responded back. So I don't know if he got it, if he looked at it, but it made me feel good. The fact that because I thought I've heard it before, but I haven't seen it written anywhere.
Mhm.
And honestly, I've witnessed it myself because even with me, um, after my divorce and going to stay home with my parents, I was still considered living on my own by myself. I was just laying my head at my parents' house, and so I had food stamps. But soon as I started working and as soon as I got married, they went out the door. that,
Exactly. Yeah.
that went
Yeah.
out the door. So I'm like,
Mhm.
again, if you don't have to, and I'm talking to the women, because this is what this is about, is the and that was a lie for me.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
if you need help, all means, get the assistance. But I do say tread lightly when you are creating a life around, I'm gonna say, a handout from a system that is created to keep us down anyway. Because then you get so dependent on it.
Mhm. Mhm.
You go from being dependent on it to sitting and saying that, oh, you can't have no relationship, you can't find nobody because you're really not looking for something consistent or foundational. Because if you do, that means you have to let this
Yeah.
dependency go that you've created for yourself.
Mhm. Exactly.
Lisa says there was a time as a single woman that I was considered not eligible to receive public assistance because I made too much, yet I was making minimum wage. So show me how you ain't spell that man's name right, baby. But not to call you out, his name spelled funny. But I like the way that you spelled it because it sounds more like how you supposed to pronounce it.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know where he got his numbers. Again, that's why I don't like facts. That's why I don't like statistics and stuff because or these trials and all this stuff because you really can't say that they're true per se because everybody they don't talk to everybody. It's just a group of people.
And another point on these trials and certain statistics, data can be manipulated to support the
Yes.
agenda of the sponsor.
Yes.
So, yes, there are some things that say, oh, this research says A, B, C, and D. Okay, well, let's examine the research. What is the metadata on the research? Who were in the control group? Who's sponsoring this? What do they get out of these findings if those findings are negative or if those findings don't support something that they as a company came out loud and said that they did support? So there is value in research, but the research needs to be categorized and prioritized properly. And in a lot of cases, it's not. It's just used to bulldoze a mentality and perpetuate the status quo in certain situations. And
Right.
one example that I'm thinking about when that Lisa was talking about that she said that she wasn't eligible for benefits, but she was only making minimum wage. That speaks to how much of a dependency certain programs are designed to create because they set the eligibility parameters so low that 2 or 3 cents above that means that you're not eligible for the assistance, but you
Mm-hmm.
can't stretch those 2 or 3 cents above that to cover the rest of the month. So it's absolutely designed for dependency. It's
Yeah,
called,
it is.
but it's not really. It's designed for dependency. And like you said, I'm championing what you said. Women out there, if you need the help, get the help that's available. Absolutely. Just understand that it's not supposed to be your lifeline. You
Yes.
have to determine that it can't be your lifeline because here's what's going to ultimately happen. If they can control what you receive as assistance, then they can control what you do to get that assistance.
Yep.
And once they start saying you can't have a relationship or you can't have this, assistance, we end up with societal conditions like what we're talking about now. And then what happens next if they say, if you say that you have a certain religious leaning and that you want to do a certain religious thing, but we're saying that you can't have any religion at all or you're not eligible, it becomes a matter of your faith. Not first your relationships, then your faith. What's next? Anything that you are dependent upon can be used to control you.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind as look toward how you're going to build whatever future you would like to have.
I'm again just my opinion, and I'm just go ahead and say it that it was now more than anything created to divide because honestly they know and they see how important it is. Heck, it's important in their family that both be in the house.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. You
that separation, that divide has been key. And I a part of me wants to not believe that this is part of the issue, but it is part of the division that we have and the reason why we're fighting because of that constant this divide has always been there from the moment they decided to create slavery over here in the US. I can't speak for any other country. I can only talk about what's over here. Um, but that divide has always been there from the get-go. And I'm not sure exactly what we're gonna need to do to subside that and get over this hump.
To bridge that gap.
It's
Yes.
it's just kind of tiresome. So our second video and our second question.
Before we get to the second video, can I say
Yeah,
two quick things? Number one, you expressed the opinion that the division was created deliberately. There are many people who agree with you on that. Absolutely, they agree with you on that. And one of the, I'm going to call this an external arm of this consideration. The guy in the video was adamant that the only reason that there were so many single black mothers was that the guys were just leaving.
yeah,
The fact that some of them did leave for that reason does not undo the premises that we're discussing now.
right,
But the leaving for that reason is also tied to what I'm going to call a blanket statement of the music industry. There are a lot of young black talented people who want their shot. And in order to get their shot, they have to sing about drugs, sex, murder, and everything that's not healthy for a family in general. And once
right,
they've been told and told and told and told over again that that's the only way they're going to make a difference and get out of the life that they don't want to live to make a new life for themselves, there is this cultivation of a devaluing of relationship. There is the cultivation of the idea that he doesn't even want a relationship because he doesn't need a relationship because women are only video vixens, and if he can have himself draped by them at every party he goes to, that's the only purpose they serve in his life. So the combination of those issues are a part of its entire outworking.
yeah, yeah. I don't. I think it was like one thing I wanted to try to teach my son when he started rapping back in 2017. I mean, well, was it 2016? No, it was earlier than that. I would probably say to 2012. Um, Came up around the time right before the Amigos, where he was actually in the same area where the Amigos were, and they were going to the same school and whatnot. And I I saw the talent that he had, and I was trying to point him in a direction of, hey, I get that's what they're talking about. I said, but you have the potential to do more, and it's okay. You don't have to ride that train. Build your own lane and whatnot. But his thing was, nah, I got to get on that trend. I got to get on that trend because this was going to make me popular. And so, um, I want to bring that popularity back to again, like that's even something that I can coincide with the lies about black single women. It's become such a trend that the angry black woman, all black women are toxic until you're wanting to have sex with them. Then you look past that for that brief moment of satisfaction, but they've like society just pretty much has created such a docile trend on what truly a black woman is. And it saddens me because again, I have black daughters. My mom is black. And my mom has gone through and has needed some of those same resources. Actually, my mother is like she has food stamps now, but it's only $20. I'm like, she's staying by herself and she's not making that much. I'm not understanding the math. The math is not mathing when it comes to how they sit and tell you, oh, like going back to what you were saying, you know, once you become dependent on it, then I can sit and I can tell you, and I can dial it up, dial it down whenever I feel the need to. And there's really nothing that you can say because guess what? You need me, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And
So
it's hard to get out from under that when you have a toddler looking up at you crying because you're hungry. So the we're looking at the when you said that you believe that the division was deliberate, and I said that many people agree with you that it was. Again, to the overarching premise, society, mainstream society, does not count black people as people. Black people are commodities. With
yeah,
music, with the workers, especially with privatized
we're
prisons,
a product ourselves.
a commodity, exactly, a product. So that enables people to decide these inhumane circumstances and then force certain people to capitulate or suffer without. And if black people had not had, no, let me say it this way, if black people had not had our enterprises blown up by the government, there would be no need for the type of dependency that has been created by these systems.
I'm coming to that type of topic too about that. So I'm not going to dive into that. But yes, I do definitely understand. So now with this one, I'm going to ask the question and then
Okay.
play the video. All
Okay.
right. So the second question: are black sons that present a female mindset the worst children due to being brought up by their single moms? So let that sink in
Okay.
and add this video here.
Produce the it's statistically a fact, single mothers, we produce the worst product, right? Part of that, when we talk about males, especially black males, we don't realize that we're programmed, because if you don't understand history, you won't realize that, like, it starts with the female. Even when we were slaves, the idea is, if you program the mind of the female slave, she will raise the offspring to continue your agenda without you having to be physically involved. She will teach her children to abide, because we're the first givers of life and care when kids are small. So we train them up to be good slaves, follow these particular rules. We indoctrinate and, create certain philosophies in their mind. So by the time they're big and strong, they still following behind the same agenda that was placed into us. So when you look at males that come from single mother-headed households, if you don't get around positive male role models, you have the emotional management skills of a woman.
Break that down. Break that down.
She
So
talking that
if
shit, man.
all of your
talking
upbringing,
shit.
17, 18 years, you've only seen a woman head the household. You've only seen how a woman problem solves. You only seen how a female, i.e. your mother, handles things. You've only seen how she deals with anger, guilt, shame, different feelings. You're only watching it from her. Now, she ain't telling you act like me, but she telling you act like me because this is programming. This is psychology.
So
I have never seen that video
mhm,
until tonight.
okay.
And while I agree that,
Mm,
while I agree that
mhm,
the single mother in the house is the only thing that the child sees,
okay.
while I agree with that,
Uh-huh.
I completely denounce the error in her. He's handling like an emotional woman.
Okay.
First point, not all women are irrational,
Mm,
emotional, hormonally
right.
imbalanced, and all of the negative things that her presentation of a woman's emotional capacity entail. If that was her example, then I get why she said that, but she can't speak for every woman. Secondly, Most of the women who manage households with young children by themselves, they are tough to a flaw.
Yeah.
They don't cry when they need to. They make the hard choices because that's all they know to do. They
Hmm.
do what should be done because it's what should be done, not because she's a woman. And a man who makes those same decisions is making the same decisions. So the idea that her position is he's only learning the flawed emotional way that women decide stuff, her basis is all wrong on that. As a woman, I am saying that she is wrong the way that she said that. And not that my gender gives me any other extra authority. I'm just making the point.
You sure about that? You're a woman. Are you just being?
I'm just
I don't
making
know.
that what she presents as the emotional basis that all children in single homes, in single mother homes see, that's flawed because that's not what every child in a single parent home sees. It's not at all. And you also remember this: men don't get half the flack as single fathers that single mothers get. And when a woman becomes the wielder of the instrument against her own support, she is falling in line with the system, just like the woman was saying in the video that she's been taught to, that she's been conditioned to, that this is just a manifestation of what the other people's ideal for her is, as lowbrow as it might be. She's right in line with them and doesn't even recognize that she is, because she's saying that, as a woman that gave her the pedestal to say that what all single mothers produce is the worst. No, mm-mm. I do not have a child and stand on every fathomable authority in saying she is not qualified to say that. She is not qualified to say that single mothers produce the worst children. She's not, because there are too many women out here working hard to do right by their children, and there are too many children who come up through those difficulties and become productive citizens. If she has not seen that, then so be it.
You're right.
But she doesn't know every single mother. She doesn't know every child that's come up in a single parent home, and she can't say that they're all the worst. That isn't hers to decide. And this is from a two-parent home. My father was around my entire life as far as he could have been. He died
Right.
when I was 14. So two-parent home for those fermenting upbringing years. I am saying that what she says is not right about single mothers producing the worst. There are too many women out here working hard to do everything they possibly can by their children. And she's only dealing with how a single woman raises children, where it raises male children. She's
Right.
only dealing with how single women raise male children. She's not dealing with how a single woman raises a daughter, which makes me believe that she's going to think that her daughter should be just as emotionally irrational as she's saying that other women are. And I that
Should, if that's what you're saying, it shouldn't just be but I'm guessing because she's a woman, you know, and she's automatically saying that women, I'm not saying this guy, so don't come in. This woman said that you guys are emotional, and again, that's another trend thing going around. It's just women are very emotional, especially black women. Um, I can speak for myself, and in all honesty, I can see where she's going with it. Um, even though I come from a two-parent home, physically my dad was there, but as a present, he wasn't. So it was almost like I was raised by my mom. I was always around my mom. Um, I can say that because of who I am, and like she stated, it wasn't because my mom taught me, but my mom taught me.
Mhm.
Um, it wasn't what she said. It was more of what she did and she didn't do. Uh, But I also can say that the lie about that is going back and digging a little deep into what you were just stating about she cannot tell me, and I'm saying she cannot tell me, this person that was just on the video, if I were to speak to her today, I couldn't believe if she told me that's the only thing that she's been around. I don't think one person can say that you haven't seen both sides of the spectrum to the point to where there was some truth to what she stated. But you can't say that by looking out, even if you haven't seen it personally, there are so many positive male figures out there that were raised by a single black woman.
And
Yeah, maybe granted,
players.
huh?
A lot of them are football players. You have
Right, because I had to go find, and I hate that's the case, that they had to go do football. And now that you say that, 9 times out of 10, a lot of them, they went out to do sports because that was possibly the closest thing that they can do to make ends meet, to do something positive for their mom, that put that time on their back to make sure that they were okay. And I don't think people look at that. We have Dark Band say the presence of two parents in itself is not a guarantee of success. Factors like the quality of the parent-child relationship and the overall family dynamic are critical. And it is. And so I definitely say that is one of the lies about being a single woman, to whereas they do. Only way I can see, and this can go for any woman, but we're just speaking into the black community about this is what this episode is about. I can only see a black woman creating I can't even say it, a bad black son, only because off of trauma.
I see you. I understand what you mean.
Yeah, because they're going through things themselves, and so now they can't focus on the child, or they're focusing on the child in a negative upbringing, and because even some black women that have trauma, they're going through the process and they're going through the healing point of it, and they're still able to raise their child right, so
that's exactly the point that I was making. They're not
debunked.
Yes, absolutely.
As JJ Swan said, debunked. It keeps them off the street and out of gang playing sports. Somewhat that's true, and sometimes it's not, because some of the boys still end up finding ways. I did. I played sports and I still found myself in game. So
I think the value of playing sports is tangible. We see the success rates of it. At the same time, we don't want to say that that's the only way that a person can change their life circumstances, because if they believe that, then that becomes a different type of dependency. And if that's the case, then they jump over to music, and we see what happens when they get over there.
Right. So
I wish I had a big red stamp right now. This is like debunked on that one.
Right. The quality of parenting is a significant factor. A single parent who provides a stable, loving, and supportive environment can mitigate many of the challenges associated with single parenting.
Absolutely.
True that.
Absolutely. And I was
all right. So now we go back to, we're going to play the video first.
Okay.
And then we're going to ask this question. All right. Okay. Gotta love it.
Seen them all over the internet. They get a boy that's raised by his mother is a very, very, very emotional man.
Very.
And I've seen them all over the internet. They get very emotional. They'll kill you over nothing because they've learned to be emotional from a woman. They don't know how to balance emotions. Because you see one thing about men, when men parent, they parent off of logic. So children can see the emotional parent.
And you grew up in a house with a mum and dad as well.
Yeah. So a woman will be like, stop doing this now. But the man will just be like, yo, let me see you do that again. You see that? You didn't even have to shout. Let me see you do that again.
That's why these little guys shout so much.
Let me see you do that again if you're back.
Okay. I was trying not to fall out laughing. I don't mean to be disrespectful to the gentleman speaking whatsoever, but why doesn't he understand that the anger, even expressed in a low tone, is still just as emotional? What distinction is he making?
Because men are not emotional. So my low tone and wide nose and fire in my eyes. Oh, that's not emotion. Cause it's low.
I'm
telling you to sit down. Sit down.
If anything, what we learn from this video is that there's too much of a willingness to condemn women in the situations that society and other factors have created around them, while we burden her with being strong enough to get through it, and then being broken is not supposed to be her luxury because she's just strong enough to get through it. And it's oh my gosh. And
that one there was one of the funniest ones. Because I can associate that with, I know it's a side topic, having emotionless sex. If you're having sex, there's some emotions in it. I don't care if you're not enjoying it. If you're just telling yourself, I'm gonna leave this person, it is an emotional thing.
Yes.
It's an emotional roller coaster. You have emotions just going up and down, and but yes. So the question: why is it so hard for men to see their fault in this dilemma? And it goes to what you basically were saying. It's like men try so hard to speak volume into this. Oh, I'm a man. I'm more logical. Women, you're emotional, so you're not gonna think correctly. You're gonna, and I'm gonna use myself again. I'm very emotional. You put on the right movie, the right show, I'm gonna bawl my eyes out. Very emotional, and anything happens to my family, I'm gonna bawl my eyes out. You piss me off, you're gonna want me to bawl my eyes out, because if I'm not crying, then I am angry and I'm possibly going to do something that I don't want to do. So yeah, let me be a simp so I can calm myself down, and so I won't do anything that I regret. But this is why I didn't have my dad in my life. I know this more than anything. I mean, and I'm not saying that my dad is not a great man. My dad is a good person, but now more than anything, I understand that he's a little boy in a aged body. He's a walking ball of emotions that can't be expressed because society told him that he couldn't.
That's right.
And if he were to, he will be looked down upon. You can't do that. So me being emotional, and if you want to chalk this up for being raised under my mom's wing, okay, whatever. And to a certain degree, my mom cried, and I don't want to say crying dictates you being emotional. And I think that's what a lot of people definitely associates that. Oh man, you cry about everything. You're so emotional. Why not? Why can't I cry about my passing of something? You know what I'm saying? Or me losing something. And so, and to cut it short, I say for myself that emotionalist father present in the house probably set me back further than me having that emotional atmosphere from my mom being
Yep.
raised from her.
Hmm.
And so for me, I think that is a lie about single black women that um I've seen my wife have that same low tone,
There you go. There you
you
go.
know, that was supposed to be not be emotional. But then I also have seen my wife scream. Heck, I've had that low tone.
Hmm.
Heck,
Hmm.
I've had that
Hmm.
scream. If you don't sit
Yes.
your
Right. Exactly. 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 And
so,
that is the distinction that people are not seemingly willing to make. An emotion comes out as an emotion. If it's the man or if it's the woman, it's still an emotion. The idea that these boxes have been so starkly created that women are emotional and men are logical and that's just how it is. That should have been the next thing that we get a big stamp over and just say debunked, just foolish, outright nonsense. And because so many people have been cultivated to believe in that as an archetype for everything, it disables them from recognizing what the man in that last video didn't see. He didn't see that he was expressing an emotion as a man while he's trying to say that the woman was all this extra emotional. He didn't even see that it was the same. And the reason that he didn't is that that hypersensitive focus on women are emotional and men are logical. No, no, no,
right.
no, no, no. That there needs people need to understand the balance. And before I get too far off into a separate point, when men are emotional, they are accused of being feminine because that archetype is so structured. And when women are logical, they are accused of acting like a man
Being too
or thinking
masculine.
like a man because that archetype is so structured. And that
Y'all
is
don't supposed to get nothing right, because if y'all get something right, y'all men right here.
I remember on one of the broadcasts before, I had commented that I am a very analytical, methodical person. I've just
Yes.
always been that way. And people
Yes.
accuse me of thinking like a man because of that. And at first it was a joke, okay, yeah, laugh, whatever. But after enough hearing that, I became offended because I felt like it shouldn't be that abnormal that a woman manifests logical thinking structures, that when she does, she's said to be acting like a man. That's There's no need for that. What you
Everybody should
all
be
need
thinking
to
logical,
see,
even kids.
thank you. What those people need to recognize is that the women that they've been hanging around that have taught them this emotional anchor being all that she can do, how broken might she be
Right.
that she doesn't know any better and that's all you see from her, so you're learning her trauma as the right thing, and then you go and say that same thing is right when it never was.
Mm-hmm.
how many men how many men haven't learned that expressing an emotion is healthy? There are men to this day who think that if you express an emotion as a man, that you are weak, you're a simp, you're, all these bad things that you were talking about. And that's not just for men's sake. There are women who say that to men. And that
Yes.
gets into a whole different thing about, what she's thinking when she's saying to provide and protect, you know,
I've been in a couple of relationships like that.
and those women need better examples. Those
Right.
women need to see men who are saying to them, what you did hurt my feelings. He needs to
Right.
be able to say that. And she needs to not call him weak for
She needs
expressing
to be able to receive it.
exactly,
Yeah,
because
she needs
she's
to be able to
likely the
receive it.
one who would rather be hit as a show of his love for her or his emotion rather than him saying to her what happened. She's going to understand that he's mad if he knocks her down the stairs. She's
Yeah.
pulling herself up by the banister like, oh yeah, okay, that must have made him angry. No, why don't you just understand if he tells you it made him angry? Why does he have to have that type of elevated expression for you to receive what he's saying?
Right.
All of these different dysfunctions feed each other. And it's hard to break that. Especially does it become hard to break that when women are telling men that they're weak if they are emotional, if they show emotion. Men are telling men that they're weak if they show emotion.
Yeah.
And then the other side of it becomes women are undercutting other women while those women are struggling to make ends meet.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things put together make it very difficult to get through any of it, to hopefully change a narrative and show them that maybe what they learned isn't the best way they should do things. Maybe what they've learned could be tweaked a little bit in order for them to have the maximum emotional benefit from it. And I want these types of conversations to go on far more than they obviously are when you have so many people behaving without even a recognition that what they're doing.
You talking about these kids that swear they're adults? Because at this point, ain't no adults having conversations because they just screaming and yelling at each other and okay, so my bad, guys. My wife said don't put my business out in the streets like that. I do apologize, sweetheart. I am retracting everything that I just stated. You guys did not hear that. I don't have wait, hold on. I think I might have my Men in Black pen.
Okay.
You did not hear none of that. He did give you the finger snaps 100% there, Dr. Whitney. Now, last video.
Okay.
Does this situation create emotionless Black women, and how does this affect the home? That is the question that we're going to ask after this video here.
Okay.
Really? Is that what we're doing? Man, boy, y'all sure do stick together, boy, I tell you.
On the entire planet. Statistics back that. Over 70% of young men that grow up under a single mother in particular, end up in prison.
So everything that this man just said is a complete lie, which means it must be time for another round of these.
Now, he's going to debunk these dudes, but, I just want to know if you're going to agree. And also answer the question. So
Sound facts. They're just things you made up to justify your feelings. Now, the often quoted statistic is that 70% of inmates come from single mother homes, which would represent about 840,000 of the 1.2 million people incarcerated, according to the Department of Justice in 2021. Meanwhile, 70% of the estimated 19 million children raised in single mother homes would be about 13 million. And I'm not sure how Aaron's defining young men, but even if we adjust for that, it would still be an absurdly wrong number. Okay, so Aaron misspoke, but what about that 70% statistic? That has to be correct, right? After all, it's repeated everywhere.
Women gotta hold themselves accountable because 70% of boys in jail are raised by single mothers.
Single sisters are to blame for the high population of men in jail.
70% of youth in juvenile delinquent facilities come from single mother homes.
80% of all youths in prison are from single mother homes.
If you compare a single mother, is 80% chance of going to jail.
80% of all prison inmates came from single mothers' homes.
I did the research. 80% of Black males who are in jail come from single mother homes.
We are filling up these prisons with fatherless kids.
Okay, so we're not sure if it's 70% or if it's 80%, if it represents all prisoners, just young men, or only Black men. But what we do know is that prisons are full of young men from single mother homes, and the women folk are to blame for it. And this statistic has been copy-pasted across every website for fathers' rights groups and family law attorneys representing fathers. But notice that it's different. It's 70% of juveniles in state-operated institutions, not prisoners. But even that claim is wrong. It comes from this 1987 report from the Bureau of Justice Statistics. And it says across all juveniles in state-operated institutions, 70% of them did not come from a two-parent home, which includes single mothers but also single fathers, homes where the child was raised by other relatives, and foster homes. In fact, single parents were only 54%, and of that, 48.4% were single mother households. But it's important to remember that this is 35-year-old data about juveniles in juvenile institutions, not prisons. And they only surveyed about 10% of juveniles, so while it might be indicative, it should not be taken as a concrete fact. Now, the statistics on inmates are actually fairly easy to get, thanks again to the Bureau of Justice Statistics. And in 2002, they showed that the number of offenders from single mother homes actually dropped from 41 to 39%, and went back up in 2016 to 41.1%. Meanwhile, homes with a father represented 40.7% of all offenders. It's almost neck and neck. So while prisons may not be overflowing with offenders from single mother households, it does represent an elevated risk about 2 to 3 times. And since your lifetime incarceration risk is about 5%, what that means is instead of 70% of children raised by single mothers going to jail, actually well over 80% will avoid ever seeing a jail. Okay, but that still means that single mums offer the worst outcomes, right? Well, studies have also looked at incarceration rates for different household types. And they did again find that 3 times risk for single mother households. And you can see that when we adjust for social, educational, and economic disparity, that risk drops to about 2 times. But before single fathers start to crow about this, look what happens when dad gets a new partner. They offer some of the worst outcomes. And when we remove the economic advantage that single fathers often have, you can see that single fathers with a new partner offer the worst outcomes, beating out single mothers with stepfathers, and even children not raised by either parent. So if we really care about childhood outcomes, we need to be teaching men not to ignore their children the minute a new woman shows up. And even if we just want to focus on improving the outcomes for single mother households, then we need to talk about what causes them, which is absentee fathers. Because absentee fathers are a huge problem. Anywhere between 1/5 and 1/4 of all fathers have no contact with any of their children. And this is often framed as, oh, my baby mother or my bee of an ex-wife doesn't let me see the kids. But that's also not true, because when we look only at men with high levels of custody, 40%, almost half of those who start out with weekly contact, virtually abandon their children within 8 years, having little to no contact. And studies have looked into the risk factors for father abandonment, and found that once again top of the list is fathers who have a new partner. And if they have a child with that new partner, then virtually all of them abandon their previous children. So if we really care about improving childhood outcomes, then we need to stop talking about single mothers and instead talk about the disgusting attitudes and behaviors in fathers that treat their children as disposable.
Now,
Yay!
before, because I'm gonna let you end it off, because I liked it so much, and again, it coincides with the question, because I myself can say at a point I was the problem too. He made a valid point about getting the new partner. My first daughter, I was out of her life for 16 years. And I ended up having more kids, got married, and fathered my stepkids, but allowed, and it's not an excuse for myself, but I allowed myself not to educate myself. And because again, I was that black scared young boy that didn't have the knowledge, the drive to figure out how to get my kids, how to get rights to my kids. And so I just allowed her to just tell me that, oh, you ain't gonna see your kids. And I had to live with that because I didn't have any, true enough, I didn't have any positive male fathers. I'm not even gonna say role models, just male fathers that said, okay, in a situation, I'm not with my kid's mother, but I am seeing my kids. I did go through these avenues to get to have the rights for my kids when I didn't have that. So, and I didn't know how to go by to do it. I didn't have the guts. I didn't have the, and I go back to the knowledge or the confidence to sit up here and say, oh, I'm going to fight. Until I met my ex-wife, you know, she helped me get all my kids legitimized. And she also helped me get custody of one of my kids. but it was still kind of hard. So I can say at some point I did cause that. I was part of that problem. So I understand men, the lies we do tell.
Mercy. Oh wow.
Because before I can say it, um JJ's son was like, did all those men grow up in single homes? Because I'm like, you cannot tell me. I'm not gonna say all of them, but I know at least 2 of them did not have both of their parents. I could be wrong. I
Wow.
could be wrong. But and then Dark Band, this stuff is bad as MSNBC, CNN, Fox. Yes, and he was getting milked. He milked those young fellas.
Yeah.
And also, so maybe black boys should have been orphans. I'm not sure what they.
I get
It's
the
just a
point that you're
constant
making by that.
repeat of a trend, a bandwagon that these men are on. So for me, does this situation create emotionless black women, and how does this affect the home? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. And the reason why I say yes is, again, coming, even me, my wife. I saw where my wife had come from. And I understood the distance and the pushback on, I hear what you're saying, but I need you to show me, because I've already given away X amount of years. And it didn't put me in a good headspace. So you're going to have to show me, because I have kids. Not only do I have kids, I have girls. So I can't have you coming in and displaying. And she also saw how passionate I was with my kids, even though me and my kids are estranged to a certain degree. Which I was just able to sit down with one of my daughters, actually 2 of them, and have a long conversation. And we kind of was able to open up some stuff. But she did see how passionate I was, but still trying to see my kids. It wasn't that, oh crap, I see your 2 kids and my tunnel vision. That's me. I'm gonna take care of these 2 kids, and I'm just gonna forget about my kids back here. No. I love my kids. Do I hate the relationship that we have? Yes, true enough. It is not a great relationship. It is an awful relationship. There are some things that I should have changed. There are some things I should have did, but I can't do that. But it's something that I tell them all the time now. This is another reason why I got the relationship, or went after the relationship that I am in now, because I want to show you that there is a such thing as a positive household. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I say yes, that can affect the home. You don't want her to act like a man. Do your part. And I'm not just talking about providing and protecting. I'm talking about emotionally being there, pouring in not only into your wife, but your kids as well. You can't sit up here and say, all right, I'm going to go to work 12 hours, 6 days of a week, come home, watch football, go out and hang with my bros, drink, take some guy trips, and go to a game here with my kids or whatever. And I'm definitely going to discipline them. I'm definitely gonna tell them to sit down.
Yeah, right.
And be emotionalist, but I'm not gonna expect my woman to feel that blunt emotionalist of a relationship and not think that it's gonna cause a problem. So that's all I have to say.
I fully agree with everything that you said. And I would like to offer you a type of olive branch, if I can call it that. One of the things that you are very open about is obviously how transparent you are. I do not want for that transparency to become something that makes you harder on yourself than any situation may call for. So, the guy was making all of the points that he was making. And I appreciate that you received all he said. You have to give yourself more credit for growth, because some of these other guys out here will hear those same things and do nothing about it.
Right.
They will do absolutely nothing but continue what they believe anyway, because they've gotten where they are with what they think. So they think that's enough, and it's obviously not. So that would be one point that I would raise. You are doing a marvelous, marvelous thing by having a platform like this to get it out there that some of the foolishness that's going on is foolishness and it needs to be stopped. that is a community service that not enough people appreciate. So absolutely hear me saying that right now. Also, I want to add, for what the man in the last video was saying, one of the points that really, really stood out to me was that here is a group of men, most of them, okay, all of them in the segments were Black men who were ready to crucify Black women.
No.
And it took a white man to come in and say, your statistics are wrong, they're misapplied, and you are blaming Black women erroneously.
Sad, right?
How many Black men are going to rise up against that notion and shoot down everything he said just because of who he is in saying it? That pride thing is real. That's a real it's fickle is the word that I was looking for. It's a real fickle situation. Now, the gentleman who was in the last video to debunk all of the lies, I don't know that he doesn't have mixed heritage. I'm speaking strictly on appearances. So
right.
He may be, of other ethnicities. I don't know which ones.
Yeah.
But for the overarching premise of what we're talking about,
he white.
Someone outside the Black culture to clarify that all of these lies that Black men are telling about how bad Black women are doing, when if we within that culture say that, they don't pay attention. They're not listening. They think that we're wrong. They'd rather believe what they want to believe. And I've acknowledged more and moreover that for some people, hearing a particular message becomes much more difficult when it's from somebody that you feel too much of a familiarity with. But if someone else says that same thing, then suddenly everything clicks.
Oh my God, I can't stand that. Did I just tell you the same thing? It just ain't sound right coming out your mouth.
Whatever the thing is, that is really how people are taking it. And what's was it the third guy or the second guy who didn't recognize the difference in his emotion? All of the people in his audience were also men. I don't know that there was a woman present to tell them, wait a minute.
It's ego stroking.
Exactly. And one of the points that the man in the last video made was actually confirmation bias. You keep quoting this 70% statistic because it justifies what you already want to think. You keep quoting this statistic because it makes you look better and absolves you of any part in the situation that you're so easily blaming somebody else for.
Yeah.
And that needs to stop, really. That's an individual thing that people can stop. And if enough people stop it, then the community stops it. And if enough communities stop it, then the whole city can stop it. And if enough cities stop it, then the whole state can stop it. You see where this is going here?
Yeah. Dark Band says actions are pretty gender neutral. If a man can do it, so can a woman, with the exception of sexual functions. Society has deemed deem things feminine or masculine, and we continue to reinforce it. And that's the main reason I think that these battles between men and women are, because I'm gonna tell you straight up, man. God's funny, right?
Yes.
I just had a
Why do
flare
you
up.
say that?
Because I just had a flare up. God puts me in situations all the time. Ever since I've about 4 or 5 years ago, I said, "Hey, I'm ready. I want to be a vessel. Use me. Put me to work."
Amen.
So I've learned that awkward situations are really not awkward. That I'm actually being placed there to speak on something. So I just had a flare up. For those that don't know what a flare up is, with someone with multiple sclerosis, my body was not acting correctly. I did not chalk it up to the fact that I had just come over a like a nasal issue, like drainage or whatnot, and I didn't take my steroids. And so I ended up having to go to the doctor and set up an appointment. What I went to the doctor for, I really didn't need to go to the doctor because I had the medicine already. I didn't take it. And so hence the reason why I end up getting a flare up. I should have took that steroids. So doing things that typical men do. Not what they're supposed to be doing. So long story short, the doctor pretty much just told me, why you didn't take the steroids? You need to take the steroids. So okay, but I'm gonna run some tests on you, right? So I go to the room to go run tests, and it's 4 black women. Actually, no, 3 black women, and then the other woman looked like she was something else. Not sure exactly what her nationality was, but upon sticking me to drain blood, someone walked in and said, "Oh crap, this woman is gonna." She did a pregnancy test. Oh man, she pregnant. And then one of the girls like, "Crap, I hate to be her." And then the other person was like, "It might be a good thing. Don't say that like that, you know. I don't want no more kids. It's crazy out here." So I'm like, I get it. I understand. Men can be hard to deal with. I can't remember exactly everything that I said, but I knew it came from God just
The
needing
moment.
to deliver a message to all of them, because I forgot my keys and I needed to come back and finish what I had to say. I didn't do it on purpose, but it was just funny. And because I was like, well, I see why I needed to come here, because I just delivered a message to you guys. And you know that they agreed. But very funny, because men, I can't say this with no less emotions than I'm about to say this low now. That wake up, grow up, because like right now you're speaking the lies that you're speaking about your black counterparts only solidifies what a white system created in the beginning. The division between us is what makes us go through the trials and tribulations that we don't have to go through. Some of the stuff that we're going through right now do not have to happen. We are condoning them because we're so hell bent on making what other people think of us to be true. When you know, like half of these men out here that are going off on women have daughters,
Mm-hmm.
have mothers,
Mm-hmm.
and they dare not say or allow anybody to say anything about their daughters or their mom. Not all of them, because some of y'all out here being hoes and you can care less what's going on with your daughters because you're doing the same thing. You turn the other cheek. But it just saddens me that all on these apps, that's all I'm seeing about what a woman is not doing, what a man is not doing, and masculine and feminine. Whereas both of us, we have both natures.
Absolutely.
At some point, I have to dig into my feminine energy to sit and to talk to my daughter, because I can't be too masculine if that's not what she's showing. So I have to have a softness. And if you want to consider that softness feminine, well, hell be it. Because right now, I'm being what my daughter needs. And then if I have to turn around and also use that same softness to my son because he can't understand why this girl just broke his heart,
That's right.
and I need to hug him tightly
Mm-hmm.
and allow him to cry on my chest, my shoulder, or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
I had to do that with my dad, and that was one moment that I thought was going to be great, when I had a broken heart and I cried, and I thought my dad was going to console me, and it was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That was a moment that defined part of my relationship with him. I can never forget that. It doesn't weigh heavy on me anymore, but grow up. All this shit that you are talking about, feminine and masculine, and you're dragging it along, shows how weak you are compared to the ones that are strong, and that they're being emotional for their kids, pouring the energy into their wives.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's all I got to say. You can go ahead and end, Dr. Whitney, with your because that's my change in the narrative.
That's right.
Grow up.
That's right. Absolutely. I completely agree with everything that you've said. And I wouldn't add anything to that at all. I think that's a great closing point, that the way that the society is structured is designed to create these divides. And until we take the necessary initiative to get around that, to circumvent those intentional dis, uh, dissections, basically, that this problem is not going to end within the Black community, because typically that's where the concentration of the issue is. You know, that's why that's where the concentration of the issue is. So I absolutely agree that the need to change the narrative hinges upon that those people, those men that need to grow up. Women, there are things that you all need to do that you should stop. First of
Right.
all, if a guy asks you what's wrong, don't tell him nothing when your body language has been saying that something is wrong for the last 3 days.
Ooh, you better stop, Dr. Whitney.
And women, do not tell your guy certain things when you expect him to believe the opposite. If he asks you, "Are you hungry?" don't say no and expect him to bring you food anyway.
What?
When you do that, the mindset that you foster is that for him, he knows better for you than what you say. So when you're in a sexual situation and you say stop and he doesn't, why? Have you not cultivated in him the practice that you don't mean what you say?
Oh,
Have
yeah.
you not taught him that what you say cannot be believed and he should think the opposite?
Mm.
Now, of course, these things are different manifestations, different levels of extreme and severity, but the mindset is the same. So, women, when you embrace how illogical it is imposed upon you to be, and then it becomes funny to you when you tell him things that you expect him to think the opposite, there's an outcome of that. That outcome of that is he doesn't believe what you say. And
Yeah.
then when he doesn't believe what you say, he takes it upon himself to make whatever decision it is. Then you wonder why he didn't consider you, because you taught him that what you say has no value and he's supposed to do the opposite. Women, you need to stop that. If there is any person who should believe what you say, it should be your partner.
Yeah.
Point blank, full stop. And the last point that I'm going to make on this one as we're closing, to the women, grow up. As the men need to grow up, there are things that you're doing that you should also stop. And the only way that society at large is going to improve is that both men and women are working together. As long
Yep.
as I've been doing this, one of the saddest things I think I've ever heard was when a woman she said, it is horrible for the single woman that she is the only creature in nature who has to date her natural enemy.
Mm.
And she was talking about the man when she
Yeah.
said, I wrote back to this young woman who said this. First of all, man is not your natural enemy. He is supposed to be your counterpart. He is
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be your complement. He is supposed to be that person with whom you experience the best version of yourself that there is, and that he also experiences the best version of himself that he is. It is the society that has been poisoned and contaminated with the separation that makes you think that he is your natural enemy when he is
Yeah.
not. Man and woman are not natural enemies. They are perfect complements.
Mm.
A lot of people won't believe it when I say something like that because they hear the tone in what I'm saying and they hear the type of content that I'm saying and they accuse me of being a man hater. They accuse me of being, oh, you're broken, you're bitter, and you don't know what real love is. You don't know how to submit and all of this other stuff
Yeah.
that they accuse me of. I have no problem understanding that men and women are perfect complements to each other. That is how it is supposed to be. But it will never be that if women do not grow up, if men do not grow up, if we as a society do not stop repeating those things that keep us bound
Yeah.
and championing those things that keep us bound, no less.
Yeah.
That dependency on a system can become healthily dependency on each other. And that is the strength of family.
Well, I do have a mic, but I don't want to drop it. I might break it. So let me drop my pen. Pen drop.
Yes.
So guys, hey, if you're watching this show, watching the show on YouTube, I totally appreciate you watching live. Please subscribe, follow, share. It does help the algorithm. If you're listening to the audio, follow, share as well. But we do offer a sponsor spot if you would like to sponsor a commercial, an ad, any form of information. Hey, feel free to comment so that we can reach out to you and get your information. Dr. Whitney, do you have anything coming up?
I am looking forward to the next time that I will share the sofa with you and the Uncanny podcast. And typically, I do have the weekly installment of Sensible Sunday on my Facebook page. I can be followed there as well as Instagram and Twitter at eWhitneyBooks and my YouTube channel.
Okay. And for me, guys, I have next Monday. Will a I said that wrong. Will a black man ever have a safe place in this world? I think for me that might be a little emotional, but that's cool. But that's the show that we're gonna have Monday. So
Yes.
definitely would love to have you in the audience and hear me talk about that and whatnot. And definitely I send over some information for you too if you would like to join in. if you're available for that as well. Dr. Whitney. But I did send you a couple of titles outside of this one, right?
Yes, I have them all.
Yeah. All right. So if you do see something, just let me know. You know where to reach me. And guys, we do appreciate you again. And with that being said, we say toodles. Oh, wait, hold on. Wait, my bad. I was a little too emotional. See y'all later.
Yes.